Good morning, guys. It's Josh coming at you from the Dane and Josh show. Dane sends his love. Sometimes he gets called to cover events and all that, which is totally fine. I prefer this part anyway, staying in the air conditioning and talking to my heroes and whatnot. As I always like to do, I like to give you a little facts. Now, the gentleman that we'll be having on here in a few minutes has a big love for Alabama, which we'll get into. So I've got some Alabama facts I think you guys might want to know about or not know about, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So the first thing I found out with Alabama, if y'all didn't know this, it's the home of the windshield wiper. Of all things, they invented the windshield wiper for your car. It's kind of cool. They also, in the United States, of all the things outside of having an amazing football and athletics program, they're also home of the most populous amount of snails in America. Alabama is home of the most amount of snails. Outside of that, a couple of interesting facts that, I dig deep for these. Thank you guys in the audience. The first 911 call was placed in Alabama. That's interesting. And then the last one, they're one of the only states that has an all-water mail route for getting your mail delivery system. So a couple of things about Alabama. There's also a huge thing that to talk about Alabama. Their home, at least they're one of the places where one of my favorite bass players comes from. Maybe not from there, but one of my favorite bass players, the one and only Dink Cook, part of Toby Keith and many bands, is joining us today. So I'm going to get right into it and bring him on. Dink, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. It's an honor to get to meet you, man. Thanks for being here. I had to represent. I see you wearing your Bama stuff, so I appreciate that.
Of
So
course.
I have no I joke around even with our Texas fans. We love you, Texas. I said as long as we're not wearing burnt orange on the show, we don't have to edit that part out or censor it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I'm glad you're here, man. Did you have a day off or a couple of days off on the road?
Actually, man, I do today. I leave in the morning. I'm going out and actually down to Alabama.
Okay.
Tomorrow to some right around Anniston, Alabama. It's called Woodland, I think. And I'm playing the show with Billy Dean
I love
tomorrow.
it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
It's gonna be a good time, man. I'm glad that we got a chance to catch up with you. I know doing this is always an honor. There's some questions over the years we've thought of the audience and us that we wanted to ask you. So I'm gonna jump into that first one. When you're thinking about your musical career, playing with Billy, of course, Toby, Bellamy, and I mean your list is extensive. Your pedigree of why people ask for you. There's no question one of the best bass players I've ever watched. But take me back to when this began, man. What age were you when you picked up a guitar and started playing?
Actually, I started playing piano first when I was about 6 years old. And
piano, okay.
Although I play a very little guitar, I went from keys to guitar to drums, and I didn't even think about picking up a bass until after I graduated high school. I had never picked up a bass.
So start off with piano, and I see a lot of musicians do this. People like yourself, I know Hunter Hayes does this, and a couple of the people in your kind of genre. Being able to play everything probably does help. Maybe if you have to fill in one time, a different band or something, you've got that skill set. That's cool, man. When you first grabbed a bass, I remember mine. I started playing bass when I was about 12. I had a purple Ibanez Roadstar. I loved it. Do you remember your first, not maybe your intro one, but what was your first real bass, man? What was it?
Well, when I got a job offer to play bass, I had never picked one up. They asked if they heard that I played, and I went, "Oh yeah, I played." And they said, "Well, we need a bass player to go on the road here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a rehearsal and start rehearsing in 3 days. You reckon you can have your gear in Nashville in 3 days?" And I'm looking around, I got nothing. I go, "Yeah, man, I got this. Yeah, no problem. I'll be there, gear and all." And I hung up and I went, "All right, let's see. No job, no bass amp, no bass guitar, no way to pay for one." So I called my dad at work and said, "Hey, Dad, hey, Pops," said, "I need to go and buy a bass guitar and an amp." And he kind of paused. He goes, "Boy, you you don't have the money to get one. I said, that's why I'm calling you. So that day I talked him into taking me down to Nutsy's Music in Birmingham and co-signing with me on a loan to buy a 74 Fender Precision.
Oh, wow.
And like a Bassman 100 amp.
Wow.
And that was my first one. And the old saying, if you knew then what you know now, I would still have it.
Yeah, man. I was going to say my buddy's got one from his dad passed on as an heirloom. And I said, dude, those things go for about 8 to 12 grand, man, at this point.
They're ridiculous. They're ridiculous. My goal is to have a 61 Jazz.
Okay.
Which was the year I was born.
Young buck.
And,
yeah.
I got a good buddy of mine. I don't know if you've heard of Bobby Vega.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Bobby's one of my dearest and best friends, and he's got a 61 that I told him, I said, man, if you go before I do, I really, really want that 61 Jazz. Of course, he's got every year in the 50s and 60s made. Makes me nauseous to think about, but
that's cool, man. It's definitely, some people, I would say, collect cars. Some people collect, comic books and different things. And I can even see a couple on your wall, man. I noticed that. I was like, I bet you're one of those avid collectors. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's 2 of about 15 in this room.
I love it. Man, it's I see it and it just kind of makes you smile. It's like, that's, it's a thing, man. So question 2, I was thinking about when I was prepping for it over the past couple of weeks with the, gigs you've done. You've had a lot of memories, I'm sure, concerts. I've had some people tell me they like those intimate, maybe the Ryman. I've heard people say Troubadour. Some people have said festivals and all that. With the different bands you played in, man, because you've done a few gigs, right, over the years.
Yeah.
Is there a one or two maybe that stands out as being your most favorite so far, if you could even pick one, gigs that you've done?
Man,
so many.
There are, and with each artist, I've got different ones that stand out. Like I was with Mark Wills for 11 years.
Yeah.
And my very first time to ever play Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut, we played the Wolf's Den, and it was my first time to play. And the showtime got changed around. And back then we didn't have cell phones to go, hey, the showtime changed. Everybody knew the showtime changed except me. It got moved up from 8 to 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, I'm cashing out at a cashier's window from playing roulette all day. And everybody's wearing, nice black dress pants and dress shirts. And I've still got on tennis shoes, a pair of blue jeans, and a white t-shirt and a ball cap. And I hear them kicking off the song. If you've ever been to Mohegan Sun, the Wolf's Den sits in the middle of the casino. Yeah. And they just paid me, cash me out, and I hear the drummer go, blah, 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 blah. And I go running through the casino, and I rounded the corner, and I'm on one foot sideways, and I'm looking up, and there's a crowd, and the band's on stage, and the monitor engineer turns around and looks at me with a deer in the headlights look. They didn't even know that I wasn't on stage.
Oh my goodness.
So he's strapping me in. And at that time, they got steps. The only way to get on stage was steps that started in the front of the stage and walked up. So I'm dressed like this with my bass on. I have to walk in between Mark and the crowd and walk up these steps and get into place. And I never look up, man. I start playing. I never look up. I just can't look up. And after that song, we kick right into Jacob's Ladder, the intro to Jacob's Ladder. And we keep repeating it. And Mark turns around. He never looks at me. He walks back to the talkback mic. And he goes, good of you to join us, Mr. Cook.
Oh, man.
That's one of the most memorable gigs I've ever had.
Man, how they
to this day, I've never lived that down. We still talk about that gig over 20 years later.
That's awesome. I mean, and I'm glad that you were able to get past it. And obviously, your career has grown exponentially, right? But that's got to be one of those almost those Tommy Lee, Motley Crue type moments where you're that guy, you're the rock star walking in. Let's go. Hey, sorry,
you never want to be that guy. You never want to be that guy. I promise you, you never want to be that guy.
I'm so glad that you were invited back to keep on making great music. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you won too. That'd have been really bad if you didn't win, right?
Well,
That'd have been.
I did cash out for 500 that day, so I was
That's cool. That's cool. And back
in
20 years ago, that was or over 20 years ago, that was a lot more money, So.
Heck yeah, it was. Heck yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, but that's one of the most memorable, man. I've been so blessed. I can't begin to tell you how blessed I've been to got to play with the people that I've played with, and to get calls now to sub. I just got through subbing 3 months with Craig Morgan.
That's cool.
I went out and subbed with the Oak Ridge Boys. I did a year and a half while I was off the road with Toby, off and on, with the Bellamy brothers.
Yeah.
Went and did a South Africa, Sri Lanka tour with them. And, I'm out with Billy Dean and Wade Hayes right now. And it's just until we get back going next year. So I'm more than blessed and honored to get those calls to get to go do that. So.
Man, and it's they talk about the phrase we use a lot is a musician's musician. And like I said, man, it was neat when I started putting out the feelers that you're coming on, how many musicians, obviously the fans love you and know you. That's a given, but musicians on end, like I even have local bar guys here saying you got Dink, and like, it's just neat how many people your reach is far and wide. People know who you are as a musician. And that's what's cool about professional like yourself, down to earth, but all the success. It's cool to see the influence that you're having on the community these days from what you've done.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm curious to see, man, is there I don't know, maybe not one or two, it's hard to narrow it down, but I mean, a couple here and there musicians that have had a big influence on you and your career. Maybe it's the style or the way they conduct themselves or the way they play, something like that.
Man, I've been asked this so many times, and I have to stick with the same thing. When I started playing bass, back then we didn't have the avenues of YouTube to go watch different bass players or see who was playing on this or how they were playing this or what tones they were using. Or the only avenue we had at that time was, here's a list of songs you need to learn. And it was learning the bass lines and not knowing who played them. I mean, back then you didn't have time, because I went for my first 8 years of playing bass, I played clubs, and you had a club gig 5-6 days a week, and you were learning songs every week. And so, my particular style, I had no bass players to learn tone or learn how or what to play. I just had to learn it so I could be ready that night to play that gig.
Wow.
So I really literally had no influences at all. I learned what I learned by ear and by what was good to my ear tone wise. And I just kind of developed that. And, I have people, like the first time that I ever played the Grand Ole Opry with Mark Wills, I never thought about it. But the monitor engineer came up to me after we got through playing and went, I appreciate you letting me win some money tonight. And I went, what? He goes, well, while y'all were playing, me and the front of house engineer, he called down and wanted to make a bet with me that I was playing a fretless. And I didn't know if you were, so I bet that you weren't playing a fretless. And were you playing a fretless, or you weren't playing a fretless, right? I said, no. He
nice.
said, well, the front of house engineer said it sounded like you were playing a fretless. So that's kind of what I just, I've never been a big fretless guy, but I guess the way I play and passing notes and stuff sounds fretless. And
I could agree with that, man. Now, can you imagine? Now we need to fast forward that and do another one of those with you in 2024. We'll use DraftKings. We'll bet on DraftKings for you. How about that?
that's a
that's a
FanDuel
thing,
and
man.
DraftKings is a part of my everyday life.
Let's do some Dink fretless versus non-fretless gigs, and we're gonna put it on. Okay, what color? What Bama hat? We can make this a thing, man. You know?
Oh yeah, I think we could.
Let's do it. Hey, DraftKings, if y'all are listening, let's make a thing on what Dink is gonna, what base and what time. Let's do it. I got you, man.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Speaking of in style, man, I was kind of telling you a little bit, even off the air, I like to listen to a lot of instrumental stuff, right? And what you do. Have you ever considered, with all the work that you've done in your repertoire, you ever thought about cutting some side tracks of your own, or what's the next year looking like for you? You know,
already been working on it.
Love it.
I haven't finished it.
Nice.
I'm actually in my studio right now.
Nice.
I started a project a while back, and it got kind of halted. I had a loss.
Understood.
In my family, lost my daughter about a year ago, and
I'm so sorry.
I appreciate it. But I told myself, because I'm starting to free up a little bit in September, that I'm going to turn everything back on and try to pick it up. And I've even had a couple of buddies say, "Hey man, why don't we do the live? You know, we're in Texas. This guy's in Florida. Let's go do some live tracks with video of, you know, recreating some Steely Dan and Toto stuff." And so we're talking about doing that as well. But
nice.
I started a kind of a smooth jazz project a few years ago, and I just haven't finished it. And I've been promising myself before the year's out, I'm going to finish this and get it done. And so
I can't wait.
That's really what I want to do.
I can't wait, man. Let me know when that happens. Honestly, I mean it when I say we'll showcase the heck out of it. That's what comes to my mind all the time. And I love it when you mentioned even the precision basses and things and the 5 strings. When I hear you play, I'm like, man, we need to get some jazz out from this guy. The world needs that. We need you to finish that, man. So let's make it happen, okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah. Me and Vega's been threatening to do something together as well. So
I like it. Let's do it.
To get Bobby Vega on a couple of tracks. That's my goal.
I got you, man. Well, I when that happens, it'll be well worth the wait. It'll be great, man. So, as far as another segment, man, we got a cool little segment. I told you, the only thing we don't give you any prep for, we do bet on these, Dane and I. So the winner of this segment. Now, Dane sent me his list. There's 5 questions, so I'll let him know. Trouble. I mean, it's all good, man. One of us is going to be happy. So you're going to get 50% of the crowd on your side, man. So, and what these are, the fans give us questions, and they're PG, but they're weird. I love our fans. They give us the most. They troll the internet, and we have a good database of, let's bring it and make it weird. So these questions you have to answer. Imagine time doesn't exist, past or present. Anything's possible. You got to pick one of these 2 scenarios. Okay. So,
all right.
First question. We're gonna go back to your high school days, along with playing bass, and they call you up and they say, "Hey, Dink, we need you to fill in as starting position of one of these 2 spots for the Alabama football team tonight." Just call you up. Are you gonna take the reins and be the quarterback for the night, or are you gonna be a wide receiver for the night? Which one?
Wide receiver.
I knew it. I had you, man. I really did. You're pretty fast, especially after hearing how fast you ran from the casino to the. I'm like, I got you.
Yeah. I actually playing football growing up. That was my position.
I love it, man. Dane had quarterback, so I got you. I want to have Dane. Sorry, Dane.
Well,
so
wide receiver is my choice, but I did play quarterback in 1 year.
Okay. Yeah, man. So you know. I saw it, man. I knew it, especially I reconfirmed my answer when you said you're able to cut like a 3-second a quarter mile up to the stage, you know. So I love it. Next question, man. Imagine you can bring back one of these 2 celebrities. We're gonna go back in time. We're gonna go back to, we'll say, early 70s, and you get to spend a day. Imagine you guys take your band and you go back in time somehow. Who you are now, you get to spend a day fishing with one of these 2 icons for the day. You can go fishing with Elvis or Johnny Cash for the day. Which one are you going with?
Johnny Cash.
Yes, I'm 2 for 2, baby. Let's go. Love Let's go. Dane's gonna hate me because I'm ordering takeout steak. I love it.
Oh.
So here you go. Next one. There's a lot of love for NASCAR and the stock and a lot of the stuff. It's the sport has grown exponentially.
Oh yeah.
So let's say after a gig you're asked to participate in a NASCAR event. But what they don't tell you is you're going to be the only person on the actual racetrack. You don't get to use a car. You get to participate racing against everybody, the whole thing. You've either got you can use a BMX bike or a skateboard. And we're going to say this right now. Nobody gets hurt. You'll be fine. Nobody gets hurt. But you're doing the laps. You're doing the laps, and you can use a skateboard or a BMX bike, national TV, Indy 500. Which one are you going with, man, to compete in this race? I knew I'd get you on this one. Skateboard or BMX bike? NASCAR.
Well, I had a skateboard before I had a bike.
There we go. So are you leaning to? Okay.
I'm going bike.
Okay. Oh, I had you on the skateboard, man. Okay. I'm 2 for 3. I love it, man. I got one more foot. I love it. One more, man. I'll go easy on it. The last one. This is a rapid fire.
All right. I'm enjoying
rapid fire question. So we're going to take it back to the early 90s. Your career's kind of taken off. And these two companies come up and say, hey, we'd like you to be our spokesperson for these two, nothing to do with music. These two companies, we want you to sponsor us. Dink, we want you to take the charge, do our commercials, put you on merchandise, all that. The two things that you get is either one, you can be the spokesperson for those old school Viewmasters, the little things, the Viewmaster, that, or you can be the spokesperson for the old school Etch-a-Sketch. You're the spokesperson, Viewmaster or Etch-a-Sketch. Which one are you going with?
Definitely Viewmaster.
Let's go. 3 for 4. I got you. Dane didn't have that one, so Dane owes me lunch. We'll be getting Red Lobster. Thank you, Dink. I owe you, man. I'll send you a voucher.
I hope you get a steak out of that.
Oh yeah, man. I'm going surf and turf, baby. Let's go. So I appreciate it, Dink. That's this little segment, man, we do with every one of our guests. Hopefully in interviews you've had, maybe you haven't had that segment, so I appreciate you on that one. So final segment, Dink. There's a little thing we do called open mic, man. And our premise for this entire show, we've always wanted to make passion, attitude, effort, chasing your dreams, the forefront of what we talk about. And looking over your illustrious career and still taking off, that's what's neat about it. If you were to go back and maybe give your starting self, a mantra, maybe a piece of advice, or those that want to be you one day, what's some words of wisdom that you live by that you could pass on to those that want to be you one day?
It's not real big, but one of the things that I always preach to musicians that ask me, especially the young guys here in town, and guys, when I'm teaching, the very first thing that I try to stress with younger guys coming up, and you're going to go, oh, is that it? But when I'm teaching, the first thing I do, I tell the kids are, don't play what you want to, play what you need to.
Okay.
Because if you play what you want to, your career might be short-lived. A lot of guys come here in hopes to get picked up by an artist. But a lot of them still haven't learned, and they'll learn the older they get, that when you go downtown and you play Broadway, you can play what you want to on cover songs. But when you get the opportunity to play with an artist, you better go sit down with the record, and you better learn the parts like they are, or if you go in there and you don't play what you're supposed to be playing and you just play what you want to, you ain't gonna have a gig.
I love
You'll
that.
be right back down playing clubs. And my other thing is, first impressions are everything. Because when you first move to town, and you want to get up and go sit in, and people don't know you, the first time you step on a stage and play, that right there with those 5 people on stage is either going to help you or hurt you when you're out trying to get other gigs.
I love
It
that.
doesn't. This is the biggest little town. I call it. Well, I've always called it little town. Now it's getting ridiculous here. It's grown so much, but it doesn't take long for you to get your reputation by how you play. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and how you get along with other people.
You say that it's neat, man, because there's a parallel what you said. We had a gentleman on earlier this week. There's a rock band called Bad Wolves, and Kyle was on, and he was talking about the professional side of music. Like it is, even though it's an amazing opportunity to play and chase your dreams for a living, just like we tell our athletes, you got to practice, you got to prep, you got to know your role. We can't have 12 quarterbacks, we can't have 12 pitchers on a team, right? And so that's what makes everything go click. Is if everyone is doing their assignment. Maybe to borrow the Belichick phrase, do your job. But when you're doing that, it makes everything better. You know what I mean? So,
well, you don't have to come in and be able to play 1,000 notes a second to get a gig. I've known guys that aren't burners, like guitar players that aren't burners and don't know 1,000 notes, but their learning is a lot higher. Mm-hmm. And being able to pick out parts and play parts, and that's all you have to do is learn the parts. That's it.
I love that.
I love that. Parts, you don't have to be a burner guitar player or the best guitar player or keyboard player or bass player that's coming to this town. You have to be able to play what they're looking for.
Man, one of my guitar teachers, I'm in Kansas. One of my guitar teachers, Kevin, he actually had a chance a couple times, and he's I think he's about 72 now. He got a couple chance to get a lesson or two from one of the Yardbirds, right? Old school. It was awesome. Oh, yeah. And he said, there's an old phrase they always talk about, and you say this kind of too, called playing clean. When I grew up, even playing in church and all that, playing clean is huge. Know your part. You can't have 5 people shredding at the same time and all that, or just makes it chaos, right? Clean playing, and that's a whole thing, man. I love that. So
you gotta know when to play and don't step on other people.
Now, when you get your jazz stuff, your solo stuff, that's what I want to be able to hear those licks, and I'd like to hear you dance up and down the frets. I want to hear that because that's the time for that, right? When you're improv and all that. So there's a time and a place for everything, man.
That's a different world altogether.
Yeah, man, that's a whole different type of feel too. So I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to hear you let loose, man, on some of those tracks. I can't wait till we hear a little demo, man. I'm itching for it because I know it's going to be anything you touch turns to gold. So I can't wait to hear that, man. It's going to be classic. Yeah, man. So as I wind it down, Dink, I really want to say thank you, man. It's been something that we've been chasing you for a long time, but just waiting. So thank you for being gracious. I hope you have some great luck on the road and some shows. And always say, man, welcome invitation to come back anytime. Please make it yeah, man. Anytime you want to come back, maybe shed some light on the solo stuff coming up, or just down the road check in. It's an open door anytime. Okay. So
thanks so much.
Yes, sir, my friend. We'll be in touch. You're welcome to drop off. You take care and good luck on the road. Okay. I appreciate you, brother.
Roll Tide.
Yeah. Oh, that hurt. Okay. You guys, I'll edit that part out. No, I'm just kidding. Much love, brother. Have a great day. I appreciate you, Dink. Have a good one, man. Thank you. You guys. So that was, I'm telling you, Dink, I've been watching this gentleman for a long time. And he was so humble. The humility that these artists have when you get to that top level like that. It's like, I look at that, top deck athletes, musicians, they have a similar, the ones that I feel like that do it right, like he does, they know how they got there. They definitely know their worth, a top deck musician, but they're always trying to get back. He mentioned it a lot about giving back to the next generation. I think that's huge. Teaching the younger people, people like that is just what we want to showcase. We always say music and athletes, but people like we interview are in good hands. And there's no question, he's definitely making music better than where he found it. And I'm just glad to be a part of showcasing him for all of you to see. Huge fan. So that helped that I was a huge fan. So that was a classic. One more episode coming up today at some point, you guys. I just got word we might be having a gentleman stop by from Scott Stapp's band. So we'll keep you posted on that. Dango should be stopping by. But if nothing else, I'm just grateful that I got a chance to track down one of my musical heroes. And that was a great one for me personally. So don't forget, as always, that we love you. And as Dane would say, thank you for listening.